Greetings to everyone out there in the NoDQ galaxy. Welcome to NoDQ Video here on nodq.com and the YouTube channel, youtube.com/AaronRift. We are now just a week away until the greatest Royal Rumble of all time. Should be a fun show, but in the meantime, I got your questions from twitter.com/AaronRift using the hashtag NoDQTurns20. First one today comes from Steve Appleby. Hey Aaron, with AJ Styles versus Nakamura being added to the greatest Royal Rumble for the championship, could you see a new champion being crowned in Saudi Arabia? I think that there is a good chance we will see a new champion crowned at the greatest Royal Rumble, but not necessarily this match. If there's any match where I could see the champion retaining, it's AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura. There's still a possibility, though, that Nakamura could win the title at some point. But my feeling is that with all these other matches, I think this one between Styles and Nakamura is the most likely to have some sort of non-finish, like a DQ or a count-out. Maybe Nakamura goes for the low blow, gets DQ'd again, but then AJ Styles reveals that he was wearing a cup, and then he takes out Nakamura. I could see something like that happening. I think there's going to be some sort of shenanigans to drag the feud out to Backlash. And then at Backlash, maybe Nakamura finally wins the title as a heel and has a decent run with it. Who knows? Anything's possible, though. It certainly could happen. I would not rule it out. But I think it's more likely Lesnar drops the Universal title to Roman Reigns and maybe one other championship is decided and we have a new champion in one of those other matches. But it is the greatest Royal Rumble and WWE is going all out to make this the biggest show possible. And I think we will see at least one title change on this show. It's just a matter of which match. And maybe we'll see more. But the fact is we saw all these title changes at WrestleMania. Are we going to have even more at the greatest Royal Rumble? I think it would be watering down the titles to have too many title changes at this show. Got this one here from Michael J. Hi Aaron, now that The Miz is on SmackDown, can you see him using Big Cass as a bodyguard/protection to keep Daniel Bryan away from him? Cass did target Bryan right away, could help reestablish Cass having Miz cut promos with him to get him over. I do like this idea a lot and it very well could happen. It reminds me a lot of Big Cass and Enzo. Enzo was the mouthpiece for Cass. Enzo was the guy that talked trash and used Cass to back him up. I could see the same thing happening. The Miz, I feel, is more credible than Enzo, but at the same time, The Miz is that type of character that likes to run his mouth, and I think by pairing them together, you can also delay Daniel Bryan versus The Miz and not give it away too soon. Virtue made a great point about it. Let the fans wait for it. Slowly build up Daniel Bryan versus The Miz. Have Cass be in Bryan's way. And maybe Cass can even beat Bryan once along the way before Daniel Bryan finally beats him and then moves on to The Miz at SummerSlam. I like that idea. I like the pairing concept of Big Cass and The Miz. I think that it will help Cass having a mouthpiece, and Miz can do what he does best, and that's talk trash while he has a 7-foot guy standing behind him. Got this one here from Stephen S. With Samoa Joe being on SmackDown, do you think he could be the top heel and perhaps get a world title run in the coming year? I reckon the SummerSlam title match you could do is AJ versus Samoa Joe. Your thoughts? I hope so. I think the biggest factor is going to be him not getting hurt. If he gets hurt, that could really stall his momentum again. As we've seen over the past several months, he's had not one but 2 injuries. If he can stay healthy, I think it's going to be Joe's year. I think he's going to be towards the top of the card. He's going to be eventually feuding with AJ. I think it's inevitable if both guys can stay healthy. And yeah, I think there's a decent chance Samoa Joe can be WWE Champion. It's on SmackDown. It's not Raw. It's not interfering with the big dog, Roman Reigns. So I think there's a decent chance of it happening. Hell, if Jinder Mahal can be WWE Champion, why not Samoa Joe? I'd like to see it happen. I think Joe has the most credibility of any heel on SmackDown right now. And I do feel that he was the biggest pick of the 2018 Superstar Shakeup. I'd like to see it happen at some point. And Samoa Joe, like I said, if he can stay healthy, he definitely has a bright future on the SmackDown brand. Got this one here from Kevin. Why did they give Nia Jax the belt? Seems like she's playing second fiddle to Ember Moon. They could just have kept the belt on Bliss for that. Your thoughts? I think it was done as a feel-good story at WrestleMania. The idea that Nia Jax was overcoming the bullying and fat shaming. WWE wanted to tell that happy story, make Nia Jax a role model for girls and young women. I think that's why it was done, for the story, not so much Nia Jax herself, but rather the story that it was telling and having a role model for those kids. I think that that was why it was done. Will it be a lengthy title run? Who knows? I could see Nia dropping it back to Alexa at some point, or maybe Nia goes back to being a monster heel. I don't think WWE is going to turn her heel since they've invested so much in her as this sympathetic character now. Maybe Ember will go heel, and a heel Ember Moon will challenge Nia Jax at some point. Who knows? It could go any number of ways at this point. It's really hard to say where all these women are going to be 6 months from now. You just don't know. I mean, Alexa came to Raw. Nobody was really sure how far she would go, and she did great. She exceeded expectations and became the top star for the women's division on Raw. Nia Jax might be able to have a breakout year here as champion. Hard to say. Got this one here from Steve Hawker. Hey Aaron, what will happen now between the planned Randy Orton and Jinder Mahal match at Backlash for the US title, seeing as Randy Orton or Jeff Hardy now has it? Will it be Randy Orton versus Jeff Hardy instead? That's what I'm assuming. I believe it's going to be Jeff Hardy versus Randy Orton. I don't see the point in Jinder Mahal winning back the US title. That's one championship I don't see changing hands at the Greatest Royal Rumble, but WWE likes to swerve people, so it could happen. Joe could win the IC title and Jinder could win the US title and the titles switch brands again. Whatever. Not really a big fan of it. I think things should just stay the way they are. Jeff Hardy, US champion. It's hot. The seeds were planted for Randy Orton versus Jeff Hardy. Orton can finally turn heel and feud with Jeff Hardy for the IC title. That's the direction I think they should go in. Do something else with Jinder on Raw. I think Jinder winning back the title and facing Orton, to me, it's a total dud of a match. Nobody, I shouldn't say nobody, but a lot of people have had zero to little interest in seeing Randy Orton versus Jinder Mahal again. Hardy and Orton is a much stronger match. So let's please keep it that way. Again, nothing against Jinder Mahal. It's just a cold feud, cold match. Much better with Hardy involved. Got this one here from Fitz. And he is a first-time asker. What wrestlers did WWE drop the ball on with, in your opinion? He cites Wade Barrett, Carlito, Mr. Kennedy, and MVP specifically. I did do videos about this over the years. In fact, we did do a NoDQ panel video about it, but I will go ahead and sum it up real quick. Some of these guys, they were not pushed properly when they were hot. Some of these guys, they had personal issues. People like Scott Hall, I think they were their own worst enemy. I think Zack Ryder is a perfect example of somebody who did not reach his full potential because of the company not willing to strap the rocket to him when he was hot. Zack Ryder was making a big splash on the internet. People were getting into him. They were chanting for his name while The Rock was out there at Survivor Series. That's how hot Zack Ryder got. How did WWE react? They did everything to bury him. They booked him like a total loser, a character that you cannot get behind, a guy who kept getting fooled and beat up all the time, and they ruined him. Wade Barrett is another example. He was hot in 2010 with Nexus, and that cooled off, and Bad News Barrett was catching on. WWE went nowhere with it. Damian Sandow, he was doing great. He won Money in the Bank, lost to Cena, and then went nowhere. Then he started doing the Miz angle where he was copying the Miz. That was getting over, and then he got cut. Rusev could be next on this list of guys that are getting really over with the fans, but WWE might not let these guys reach their full potential. Rusev could be a monster babyface and be one of the top guys in the company, I think. But will it happen? Time will tell. It seems like the more time that passes, the less likely it is that WWE is going to pull the trigger on him and give him the big push. This one comes from Aaron Lewis. Do you think our perception of the current product is arguably marred now as adults compared to the Attitude Era? As kids, teenagers, we didn't question every bad booking decision WWE made, but now when it happens, complaints are amplified. Thanks. I feel like you do have a point there. I feel like the Attitude Era, we were kids, a lot of us, and we overlooked some of the bad aspects of the show. But at the same time, the Attitude Era was changing the business completely. It was something totally different. It was extremely innovative and creative storytelling. Pandora's box was wide open. All sorts of things were happening. Some of it was controversial. Some of it didn't make any sense. And wrestling has historically been like that, where the storylines typically don't make a lot of sense. But the characters were so strong, the shows were fast-paced and fun to watch, that people tended to overlook all the plot holes and things that didn't make a whole lot of sense. Now, it's a lot slower paced. The wrestling is better, but the storytelling isn't what it used to be. We haven't really seen anything innovative as of late, and it's tough now because it feels like everything's been done. What else is there to do? What else has been done that hasn't been done? One day, I think somebody will come up with something that's fresh and out of the box, and it will change wrestling again. It's just right now we're in a period where WWE is following a formula to a T, and as long as they're making money from it, they're going to stick to their formula. 1996, 1997, 98, they had to try different things. There was competition from WCW. WWE had to reinvent itself. They don't have to do any of that right now. They can just stick to what they know works and continue to make a profit. Got this one here from Infinity War Hype, the anime fans. Is it just me, or does WWE use fans' "you deserve it" chants during the WWE shop ads make it feel less important when it comes to something like a championship victory from somebody who's been chasing it for months and years? I think the fans have ruined the "you deserve it" chant, if anybody has ruined it. I think WWE using it all the time does take away from the coolness of it. But the fact now that every show, fans are chanting "you deserve it" and "this is awesome" for every single little thing, that it loses meaning. Things should be done in moderation. When a guy goes through a table every single week on television, it loses its luster. It loses its importance. Same thing with the near falls. When every match has 20 near falls with guys kicking out at 2 9/10, it gets old. It loses its mystique, and it just doesn't feel as special when it happens all the time. You want to save these moments for certain times. Not every match is awesome. Not every guy deserves it, but fans just chant for the sake of chanting, and these chants get very watered down. And I do feel that, yeah, WWE does help assist in watering down these chants, but ultimately I think it's the fans that just have gotten to the point where they just chant for the sake of chanting, and the chants just lose all meaning. Got this one here from Kyle Allen. Is Ronda Rousey's debut the most impactful in wrestling history? I think the jury is still out on that one. We'll see what Ronda Rousey's legacy is in WWE when it's all said and done. But as far as celebrities getting in the ring for their first match, she's got to be up there at the top. I mean, who else had a first match that was as successful as hers and kept going, for that matter? I can't think of too many people. We had Lawrence Taylor at WrestleMania 11. That was an okay match, but it was an okay match on arguably the worst WrestleMania card of all time, and he never did anything after that. Ronda Rousey is a full-fledged WWE superstar now, and I think, you know, if she keeps at it and keeps going, I think when it's all said and done, it will be the most impactful, and she could very well change women's wrestling even further than it's already been changed if her and Charlotte main event next year's WrestleMania. Got this one here from Kit. Yo, Aaron, so do you see Johnny Gargano being the top stars in the future? He has the talent to prove, so as he has gotten 2 5-star matches in less than 2 months, or will WWE just fail to deliver like they have in the past? That is a very valid question. What will happen with Johnny Gargano when he gets to the main roster? I like to say the cream rises to the top. Gargano is extremely talented. He's been delivering big time in NXT. Will he have the same success on the main roster? Daniel Bryan did get there, but he had a lot of bumps in the road. He got fired. He got turned heel. He got pushed down the card. He got injured. All these different things happened, but Bryan kept coming back. I think if Gargano, with a little bit of luck, will be a top star in WWE. He might run into some bumps in the road, but if he keeps at it and keeps fighting and the fans stay behind him, which I think they will, I think the odds are very good in his favor that he will be a top-tier WWE star on the main roster, despite not being a so-called Vince McMahon guy. Got this one here from Walter. Hey Aaron, should Nakamura and Joe jump AJ Styles and then have Anderson and Gallows make the save, reuniting the club as faces on SmackDown? We could see that happen. We could see a possible scenario where the top heels get together. You know, I got that question earlier about The Miz and Big Cass. We could see them team up. We could see Joe and Nakamura team up. Maybe all of them team up and form a super faction against Bryan and AJ Styles, and then you could have Anderson and Gallows. And I think I just put together a Survivor Series match if Survivor Series was coming up, a 4-on-4 match, and maybe throw in 2 more people, 1 on each side. I like the idea. At least on one of the shows, I'd like to see a super heel faction. We haven't seen it in a while, and I think it's okay to do it every now and then. Going back to that earlier question, in moderation. Just something that's not McMahon related. Have a super faction of wrestlers. You know, League of Nations was a flop, but something with Joe and Cass and Miz, the top heels on SmackDown, I like it. And have 2 sides battling for supremacy in WWE. I would definitely enjoy that and be entertained by that if they did it right. Got this one here from Samish. Hey Aaron, do you think with the reintroduction of co-branded pay-per-views, the quality of matches would increase in these pay-per-views? Well, you tell me. Go back to 2007, I believe, when WWE gave up the single branded pay-per-views the first time. I think it did help in the quality, at least in the short term, where you had the biggest matches on one show instead of a pay-per-view where you had a lot of filler matches. It is a different era now, though. It's not the same. No more $50 pay-per-views. It's the network era. I do think, for the most part, the shows will be stronger. We did talk about this before when it was announced that the pay-per-views would be going back to single or dual branded pay-per-views, excuse me. The pros and cons of it. The big pro is that the shows should be better and there won't be as much filler. The negative is some of those younger guys looking for spots on the pay-per-view trying to make something of themselves. It's going to be harder for them to break out, and they're going to have fewer opportunities. So we'll see if it works out, but at least for the fans in the short term, it should result in better shows and better quality shows rather than 2 shows a month. Or not every month we were getting 2 shows, but sometimes, we were getting, 16, 17 pay-per-views in a year, which is way too much. It was getting very watered down. The cards were not that strong. So the way they're doing it now, 1 pay-per-view month seems to be the best way to go. This one comes from Liam. Hey Aaron, I've heard stories of Raven almost taking WrestleMania 17 off the air with the golf cart and was wondering what WWE would do in a situation like that. Well, what would they do in any situation? There's any number of things that can happen. You could have a fan jump in during the main event and somebody got hurt. You could have the power go out, as you mentioned. There's all sorts of problems that WWE has to deal with, and for the most part, they've been able to avoid any serious problems. All you can do is prepare and hope for the best. Things happen. Accidents happen. People might get involved in a show that aren't supposed to be getting involved. Mother Nature might play a role. You just don't know. I'm sure WWE does have a backup plan, and the attitude is to keep the show going if at all possible. The show must go on, and you just have to make the most of it. I'm sure they have whatever backup plans possible for various circumstances, and they just hope for the best and hope it doesn't come to that. But if it does, you're prepared, and you just do what you can and make the most of it. Look at Beware of Dog back in '96. That pretty much screwed up the entire pay-per-view because of the power, the weather, causing the lights to go out in the entire building. So what did WWE do? They basically redid the matches on a separate show for free, and that's how they handled the situation. So it just depends on what the situation is and WWE making it right for the fans, which I'm sure they would. That'll wrap it up for this edition of No DQ Video. You see I got the nodq.com beanie. They are back in stock. Email me, nodqmisc@gmail.com. That's actually the PayPal address where you can send a payment, $20 for the beanie. If you are in Canada, it's an extra $10. Elsewhere in the world, it's an extra $15. If you're outside the United States, we have the beach balls, same thing, $10 plus the shipping for international visitors. Combined, if you want to get both the beanie and the beach ball, it's $28. So nodqmisc@gmail.com if you're interested. Limited quantity available, so get it while you can. And thank you guys for supporting No DQ Video and nodq.com. I will see you all next time.